From CP3's decade-long beef with referee Scott Foster to King James' hilarious reaction to Eric Lewis's investigation, these are NBA referees' most controversial moments. And I can't talk about controversial refs without mentioning Scott Foster, who seems to hold grudges better than he holds his whistle, especially when it comes to Chris Paul, because his beef with the player goes all the way back to 2007. CP3 believes that he always ends up on the losing side whenever Scott's in charge. And you know what? The numbers back him up. In the last 12 playoffs, Paul's team has lost every single game officiated by Scott, and the only time they won was when CP3 was benched for safety protocols. Coincidence? I don't think so. And their rivalry runs back to his first playoffs in 2007, when CP3 had his playoff debut and the Hornets were on a roll, winning 2 back-to-back games against the Spurs, but then Foster stepped into the whistle crew, and bam, the Hornets lost their next game. At that time, no one could have connected the dots, but in 2017, when Paul joined the Rockets, their beef turned into a full-blown public drama. Because right after he became a Rocket, the team went on a painful 0-for-6 streak in the playoffs, with the infamous Scott Foster calling the shots once again. To add to the insult, CP3 got hit with a technical foul for no reason at all. That's when the point god decided to take a jab at the ref, sarcastically saying that it was no big deal, just classic Scott at his finest. And it's not just him alone, even James Harden spoke out against the ref. The Beard insisted that Foster should be banned from anywhere near the Rockets games. He even went as far as calling him rude and arrogant. But to be honest, I wasn't fully sold on the whole vendetta theory between them, so when CP3 switched to Thunder in 2019, I thought maybe, just maybe, there'd be some peace between them. But Chris claims that during his Game 7 in the 2020 playoffs, the ref came up to him and dropped a not-so-subtle hint that he'd be kissing victory goodbye, just like his Game 7 against the Spurs 13 years ago. And Scott lived up to his word, which really ticked CP3 off, because no one expected him to even last the season with OKC. But instead, he gave an all-star season, leading his team to number 5 in the playoffs. Until, of course, their series with the Rockets came around, and surprise, surprise, Foster was the ref in the final game. And, as expected, he had his eyes glued to one player only. He slapped Chris with a bogus delay of game call that left CP3 furious. He even went as far as to bet that the ref was targeting him on purpose, and he backed it up with just one line: 11 games in a row. Now 11 games might make you think that he has a bounty on Chris's head only. But it turns out that Scott has a knack for intimidating players, even when they're not on the court, cause he booted DeMarcus Cousins for arguing with him while he was on the bench. Foster just proved that he won't spare anyone, cause he gave Boogie a technical foul as he thought that he was advising another player from the bench. Now, anyone would have been pissed in that situation. There was no proof that Cousins was bench coaching, and the big man stood up to the ref, saying that he can't just assume. And you guessed it, the ref did not like what Boogie had to say. So he did what he always does, and ejected him from the game without hearing another word. But I guess it was no surprise, since Scott has been criticized by almost every NBA player for having a trigger finger when it comes to tossing players out. Whether he's delusional or just has a superhuman eye for detail, I don't know. But what I do know is that his fellow ref Joey Crawford is no better, cause he called a foul on Marcus Camby when he had literally done nothing. Apparently, the ref saw something that no one else in the building did. Cuz in the third quarter of the Blazers vs. Suns game back in 2010, Crawford called a foul on the Blazers for doing something to Steve Nash. And to this day, I don't know what the Blazers star even did. Because Nash was minding his business, heading down the court, when out of nowhere, the ref told him to head to the free throw line cuz of a foul by Camby, which makes no sense at all. And even the footage shows that the two were 15 feet away when the whistle blew, and Nash was untouched the entire time. While fans were furious at the wrong call, which clearly showed that Joey had something against the player, Camby was still decent enough to not argue. But not every player's an angel like him, and let me tell you, they don't hold back at all. Like the time Draymond Green mocked the ref after he was awarded a technical foul. And maybe for once, I think that the player was at fault here, cause Green was in foul trouble throughout the game against the Lakers, and after his 4th personal foul, Ed Malloy had had enough of his antics and slapped him with a tech. While this was not surprising at all, cause, to be honest, everyone saw it coming. But I bet you never imagined that Green would imitate the ref for simply punishing him. And he even kept barking at the ref as he headed to the bench. And some fans were even shocked that he didn't get a second technical. Because if it were Scott Foster on that crew, believe me, Draymond would have been out of the game faster than you can say technical foul. But still, Green put the blame on the ref, saying that while he has a good relationship with most officials, he just doesn't feel like Malloy treats him with respect. And according to him, Ed's approach to the game is either his way or the highway. And that just doesn't sit well with the former Defensive Player of the Year. But hey, let's give credit where it's due. Even Green has held back sometimes, or at least he's tried to. Cuz he was fined 35 grand for taking a jab at the ref in a series of cryptic tweets. And let's just say that subtlety isn't his strong suit. Cuz the league caught wind of his mysterious tweets, and it was only a matter of time before the Warriors got hit with the league's fine hammer. Because it wasn't just him alone. Steph Curry had to dig into his pockets for 25 Gs, and Kevin Durant got tagged with 15K for calling out the ref Murat Kogut, but can you blame them? The ref had made a ton of controversial calls against the Warriors, but the league thought that the players had taken it too far, especially Green, who took the biggest hit out of them all, as he was fined $35,000 for impugning the integrity of NBA officiating. And while that sounds pretty serious, wait till you hear the actual crime. Just 2 words. TD and MK, that's it. And I know it seems pretty harmless until you find out what he really meant. Apparently, TD was a clever nod to former ref Tim Donaghy, who used to bet on games during his NBA days. And MK was simply Green taking a jab at Kogut by accusing him of fixing matches just like Donaghy. At least Draymond gave us a good laugh at his expense though. Plus, he had his fun trolling the ref too, but you know what's even more satisfying? Watching the ref that's been singling you out get a taste of his own medicine. And LeBron James is surely having a lot of fun watching ref Eric Lewis getting slammed for using a burner account. It turns out that this ref had a secret double life on Twitter, and he was using a fake account that was hell-bent on defending a single ref, Eric Lewis himself, especially against the allegations that Lewis favors the Celtics. And when another user ranked all NBA officials, hilariously putting Lewis near the end of the list, the account jumped in to defend the ref again. Now, you don't have to be a basketball genius to smell something fishy here. And while having a burner account isn't technically against the rules, the NBA still doesn't allow refs to openly comment on officiating. This is exactly why the league has opened an investigation into Lewis, and LeBron is really enjoying the whole drama. After all, the ref swallowed his whistle on a potential game-winning foul against King James. So the King pretended to be shocked when the news of Eric's investigation broke out, asking, "This Eric Lewis true? And we don't really know if it's true or not." But LeBron is not shocked, that's for sure. So, from King James's hilarious reaction to Eric Lewis's investigation to CP3's decade-long beef with referee Scott Foster, those were NBA referees' most controversial moments.